Back in 1929, Chicago had a problem. Are you running? Okay. In fact, the tentacles of that problem infested much of the nation around Chicago. The problem had a name, and that name was Al Capone. Capone was a criminal and a wicked man who literally ran the city of Chicago. He owned most of the politicians and policemen, and those he couldn't buy, he threatened or had killed. Capone and his mob ran prostitution rings throughout the city and sold bootleg liquor worth millions. Then one day a young Treasury agent and 11 of his hand-picked men decided it was time to declare war on Capone. Does anybody remember that name of that young 26-year-old Treasury agent? Elliot Ness.
The untouchable.
You know, let me stop right there. The young Treasury agent and 11 of his hand-picked men decided it was time to declare war on Capone. Years ago, I did a sermon on signs, and I'm often wondered, 11 plus 1 is 12. It makes me wonder if each one of those people he picked represented each one of the tribes of Israel. You do know there was 11 people landed on the moon, and one circled the moon. Makes me wonder, did all those people, each one represent the tribes of Israel? We never know until Yahweh comes back. But besides that point, Ness and his team ran continuous raids on Capone's operation and cost the mobsters millions of lost revenue. And as you can imagine, Capone was not happy with this, and he attempted numerous assassination attempts on Ness, and he even succeeded in killing one of Ness's closest friends. But before Al Capone took out a contract on the Treasury agent, he decided on a softer approach. And at the time, Ness was making a whopping $2,800 a year. But this was back in 1929, of course. And all of a sudden, the envelope showed up with $2,000 inside. And the messenger made it clear that this could be a weekly salary, not a yearly salary. Just for Ness, if he would leave Capone alone. Ness put the money back in the envelope and sent it back to Capone with a message. He said no. Then he called a press conference and he told the assembled newspaper men all about Capone's attempt to bribe and made it clear how much contempt he had for the man who had offered it. And of course, the next day the headlines read, Ness and his men are untouchable. So that became the legend of Elliot Ness and his untouchables. In a day of corrupt officials and policemen who were on the take, Ness and his untouchables became heroes. They were righteous men who could not be bought. They were upright men with integrity who fought evil and corruption. They were the men of legend. Now we'll read Proverbs 11, starting in verse 1. A false balance is an abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. When pride comes, then comes shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteous of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. Then, when the wicked man dies, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perishes. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, the wicked comes in his stead. A hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is shouting. By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. He that is void of wisdom despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his peace. A talebearer reveals secrets, but he that is of a faithful spirit conceals the matter. Where no counsel is, the people fall, but the multitude of counselors there is safety. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hates suretyship is sure. A gracious woman retaineth honor, and a strong man retain riches. The merciful man does good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubles his own flesh. The wicked works a deceitful work, but to him that sows righteousness shall be a sure reward. As righteousness tends to life, so he that pursues evil pursues it to his own death. They that are of a forward heart are abomination to Yahweh, but such as are upright in their way are his delight. Through hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is the fair woman which is without discretion. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. There is that scatters and yet increases, and there is that withholds more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and that waters shall be watered also himself. He that withholds corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that sells it. He that diligently seeks good procures favor, but he that seeks mischief, it shall come unto him. He that trusts in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. He that troubles his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. Now, Proverbs 11, Yahweh says he is calling for his people to be men and women of legend. He's calling us to be people known for our integrity, people who can't be bought, people who stand for righteousness in a land that is filled with evil and corruption. That's describing us today. Micah 6 verse 8, he has showed thee, O man, what is good, and what does Yahweh require of thee? But to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy Elohim. So what Yahweh is saying, he expects from us is righteousness, mercy, and a humble spirit. He calls us to be legends in our world. And so here in Proverbs 11, Yahweh tells us what a righteous person looks like. And as Yahweh often did in the book of Proverbs, Yahweh draws a contrast between the righteous and the wicked. Verse 3, the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of the transgressors shall destroy him. Verse 5, the righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. Verse 6, the righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. Verse 8, the righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked comes in his stead. 9, the hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. Verse 10, when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perishes, there is shouting. Verse 11, by the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but the overthrow by the mouth of the wicked. Did you see the pattern here? Yahweh says, and these are the righteous people righteous that are righteous, and these aren't. These folks have integrity, those folks don't. Yahweh loves the good guys. He despises the other guys. The upright he protects and honors, but the wicked will be trapped and destroyed. Yahweh is making a comparison, and he's telling us, make a choice. Decide what kind of person you are going to be. A while back, Bernard did a nationwide survey asking about their views on righteousness, and the survey organization did not put it this way. What they did was they asked people to evaluate what they thought about 8 specific activities. Watching pornography, using profanity in public, gambling, gossiping, engaging in sexual intercourse with someone to whom you were not married, seeking revenge against someone, getting drunk, and lying. And what they found was folks who believed the Bible were the group most likely to follow and embrace morality, while atheists and agnostics were more likely to reject it. Liberals, compared to those who described themselves as conservatives, were often more religious and were 5 times more likely to participate in unmarried sex, more than 3 times as likely to view pornography, more than twice as likely to lie and get drunk and seek revenge and gossip. And people associated with faiths other than Christianity were twice as likely as believers to engage in these behaviors. What that said to me was this: those who respected Elohim and the Bible were more likely to embrace righteousness than those who didn't. To paraphrase a great writer, Dostoevsky, once you remove God from Scripture from your life, everything is permissible. Those who reject Yahweh's righteousness do so because it interferes with what they want to do in their lives. It's kind of like the story I once read about a man who went to see a psychiatrist. He complained, "I've been doing some bad things, doc, and my conscience is troubling me." And the doctor says, "And you want something that will strengthen your power?" The man said, "Oh, no. I was thinking of something that would weaken my conscience. Drunkenness would help." Many people don't want Yahweh's righteousness. They want something that will make them feel better about their own unrighteousness. But Yahweh says that's not going to happen. Yahweh says, I don't care what your excuse is, wrong is wrong. There's a deacon who was committing adultery and they just let it go. The guy was wealthy, related to some of the leadership, and he was a likable guy. When a new preacher showed up, he wouldn't go along with it. In fact, one man asked, if you were a preacher in San Francisco, you wouldn't preach against homosexuality, would you? Well, yeah, that's where they all live. It doesn't matter what sin we're talking about. Wrong is wrong. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone else it says is okay. Exodus 23:2, what does that have to say? Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. Wrong is wrong, even if you don't get caught. The eyes of Yahweh are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. You can't possibly do anything that Yahweh doesn't know about. Wrong is wrong, even if it doesn't bother your conscience. The conscience can be trained to accept wrongdoing. You can build up a callous over your heart. And Ephesians 4, verse 18 tells us that. Having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of Yahweh through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart. Wrong is wrong. And Yahweh does not accept excuses. Yahweh calls for, no, he demands righteousness from his people. To those who would choose wickedness, Yahweh says in Proverbs 3:33, the curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blesses the habitations of the just. You'll be brought down by your own wickedness. Proverbs 11 verse 5. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. You will be trapped by your own evil desires in Proverbs 11:6. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. And when you die, people will rejoice. Proverbs 11:10. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perishes, there is shouting. But if you choose righteousness, that's a whole different ballgame. Yahweh will bless you. Yahweh will hear your prayers. Proverbs 15:29. Yahweh is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. You will sing and you will be glad. You will be happy. Proverbs 29:6. In the transgressions of an evil man there is a snare, but the righteous does sing and rejoice. You won't go hungry in Proverbs 10:3. Yahweh will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but he casts away the substance of the wicked. You might get knocked down 7 times, but each time you will get back up again. Proverbs 24:16, for a just man falls 7 times and rises up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. So, Yahweh calls his people to righteousness, but there's a fly in the ointment. There's a problem we run into when we strive to be righteous. Does anyone know what that problem is? In Romans 3 verse 10, there is no one righteous. Not even one. And Job 9 verse 2 agrees. How can a mortal be righteous before Yahweh? The fly in the ointment is, no one is righteous before Yahweh. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of Elohim. So, let me see if I got this right. Yahweh wants me to be righteous. I want to be righteous. But I can't be righteous because no one ever is righteous. So if I can't be righteous, why would Yahweh demand it of me? Because Yahweh sets the bar high. He says, this is what you are aiming for. He's not saying you are always going to reach it, but that is your objective. You are going to touch the bar now and again, but there's no way you will continually or constantly be able to attain that goal in your life. Someone put it this way. Before I came to Messiah, I practiced sin and committed acts of righteousness. In other words, before he became a believer, he lived for himself. Yahweh's opinion didn't matter to him. If he wanted to do it, he did it. Sin was a way of life for him. But he saw himself as being a nice guy, so he would occasionally do nice things because that's what nice people do. So this person said, before I came to Messiah, I practiced sin and committed acts of righteousness. Then he said, now I practice righteousness and commit acts of sin. In other words, now that he belongs to Yeshua, he lives to please him. But he's realistic enough to realize that he still messes up. He falls short. He sins. But that's no longer his goal in his life. And as I was pondering this issue of our imperfect righteousness, I was trying to think of some way to illustrate this truth. Then I came upon this thought. How many of you have ever watched high school baseball game? So let's say we take the high school baseball team and take them to Milwaukee and play the Milwaukee Brewers. How do you think they would do? they'd lose because they're high schoolers. They can't throw a ball as hard or as fast as the big league pitchers. They can't run as fast as a professional can. They can't hit baseball as far as the pros do. They don't have the same skills as the infielders or outfielders. They don't belong on the same field as the Brewers. So if they wouldn't stand a chance of beating the Milwaukee Brewers, why they even bother to play baseball? They're not as good as these professionals. So why even play the game? Of course, that's not how people think, especially the high school coaches. Those coaches don't care if their players aren't as good as professionals. All they want from their boys is the best each of them can give. And if those young players don't give their best, they'll be doing laps. The Bible is telling us we are not in the same league with Yahweh. You and I will never be as righteous as Yahweh. Job says, how can a mortal be righteous before Elohim? We're not on the same playing field as Yahweh is. We don't have bragging rights to say we've been righteous enough to deserve to be on his team. That's why in Ephesians 2 tells us, among whom also we all had our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. But Yahweh, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sin, has quickened us together with Messiah. By grace you are saved. In Ephesians 2:9, not of works, lest any man should boast. So, not righteous enough to be saved, but if that's true, how could I possibly make it into Yahweh's kingdom? Well, that's what 2 Corinthians 5:21 explains to us. For he has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of Elohim in him. Yahweh made him, who had no sin, Yeshua, to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteous of Yahweh. You see, when I'm clothed with Yeshua, his righteousness compensates for what I lack. One man explained it this way: if a believer had $5 and Yahweh wanted 10, Yahweh supplies the other 5 for him. If the believer had 7, Yahweh would supply the remaining 3. Yahweh makes up the difference for what I lack in righteousness. It's kind of like this. Let's say a high school player gets a chance to play for the Brewers. There's 2 outs. The bases are loaded, and a young man is up to bat. On the mound is one of the best professional pitchers in the league, and our boy doesn't stand a chance. And he knows it. Suddenly the coach calls timeout. He pulls our boy aside and puts him in a pinch hitter in his place. A fabled home run hitter. The pitcher goes into his windup, the ball streaks towards the plate, the batter swings, and it's out of here. The ball flies high and true and goes on the right field over the fence for a grand slam home run. Then the coach says to our boy, now you run around the bases and make sure you touch each one of the bases. That's all you have to do. Philippians 3:9 says, I don't have a righteousness of my own that comes from the law, but that which is through faith in Messiah. The righteousness that comes from Yahweh is by faith. Philippians 3:9. And be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but which is through the faith of Messiah, the righteousness which is of Elohim by faith. In 2 Corinthians 5:21, for he has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of Elohim in him. So, how do I get How do I get into Yeshua so I can lay hold of his righteousness? Galatians 3:26. For you are all children of Yahweh, by faith, Messiah Yeshua. Galatians 3:27. For as many as you as have been baptized into Messiah, you have put on Messiah. You see, when you and I believe that Yeshua is the Son of Yahweh, and we're baptized into Messiah, we suited up for his team. When that happens, Yahweh calls us to live lives dedicated to righteousness. His way of life found in the Bible. But in righteous life, we strive for. We need to realize that we will not get into heaven by our own righteousness. You'll get into heaven by Yeshua's. Yahweh bless. And page 8. Page 8, the servant. No, that's not it. Israel. Page 9?
Yeah.
9? Page 9, Israel. Tell you a strange tale, a riddle, a rhyme, a song sung by Yahweh and passed down through time. Search for an answer, hunger to know. So ask about Israel. Where did she go? Did she hide her veil? And did millions and millions forget? Soon he'll uncover, the world will discover. Israel, Israel, you're here. Heaven, stand by the sea. Then you know the number of Abraham's seed, a promise of safekeeping, that lips that can't lie. Come on out, Israel, where do you hide? Oh, where did he hide her? Where does he keep her? When did millions and millions forget? Soon